What happens when truth stands before political power and refuses to bend? What if justice is not decided by truth, but by fear, pressure, and control? And what if the most important question ever asked is not what is truth, but whether we are willing to recognize it when it stands right in front of us? The night is not over, but it has shifted into something colder. The courtyard of the high priest has done its part. Accusations have been made, denials have been spoken. Fear has moved quietly through the hearts of those involved. Now, Jesus is led into a new space, a place of authority, a place of judgment, a place where decisions are made not by religious leaders alone, but by political power. In Gospel of John, chapter 18, verses 28 to 40, we enter the moment where Jesus stands before Pilate. This is the beginning of his formal Roman trial. But unlike any ordinary trial, what unfolds here is not just about guilt or innocence. It is about truth confronting authority. The scene begins early in the morning. The religious leaders do not enter the Roman headquarters. They remain outside. They are concerned about ritual purity, about ceremonial rules, even as they deliver a man to be judged. This contrast is striking. Outward cleanliness is maintained, but inward justice is being neglected. Pilate comes out to meet them. He asks a direct question: "What charges are you bringing against this man?" The response is vague. "If he were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." There is no clear accusation, no structured evidence, only assumption and authority pressure. Pilate senses something is not right. He tells them to judge him according to their own law, but they insist they cannot carry out execution. This detail reveals the hidden intention. The goal is not investigation. The goal is outcome. They want a result, not a process. So Pilate agrees to question Jesus inside the palace. And here the focus shifts. The physical space changes, but the deeper conflict becomes clearer. Pilate looks at Jesus and begins the interrogation. Are you the king of the Jews? It is a political question, a question about power, identity, and potential threat to Rome. But Jesus does not respond in the expected way. He does not deny. He does not accuse. He does not enter into political argument. Instead, he asks a question in return. Is that your own idea, or did others talk to you about me? This response shifts the entire dynamic. Jesus is not reacting to accusation. He is examining the source of the question. Because truth is not only about answers, it is also about perception. Pilate responds defensively. Am I a Jew? Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me. What is it you have done? Here, we see Pilate distancing himself. He is not emotionally invested. He is trying to understand a situation that has been brought to him from outside pressure. And Jesus responds with one of the most profound explanations in this moment. My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place. This statement changes everything. It removes Jesus from the category Pilate is trying to place him in. He is not a political rival, not a revolutionary in the earthly sense, not a threat to Roman authority. His kingdom operates on a different level, a different origin, a different structure. Pilate then asks, so you are a king then? And Jesus replies, you say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. This is the core of the moment. Truth, not power, not politics, not accusation. Truth. Jesus defines his purpose not in terms of dominance, but in terms of testimony, to testify to truth. And then comes one of the most haunting questions in the entire scene. Pilate asks, what is truth? But he does not wait for an answer. This question is not followed by reflection. It is followed by action. Pilate steps back outside. This detail is important. The question is left unresolved. Not because truth is unclear, but because the moment of engagement is avoided. This reveals something deeply human. Sometimes, truth is not rejected through argument. It is avoided through distraction. Pilate returns to the crowd and declares, I find no basis for a charge against him. This is a moment of clarity. He recognizes something. There is no evidence of wrongdoing. But instead of releasing Jesus immediately, he offers a custom, a prisoner release during the Passover. And he presents a choice, Jesus or Barabbas. Barabbas is described as a rebel, a man involved in uprising and violence, a figure associated with political disruption, and the crowd is given the decision. This is where the tension becomes most visible. Truth is now placed beside preference, justice is placed beside expectation, and influence becomes the deciding factor. Pilate asks, "Do you want me to release the King of the Jews?" But the response is not what logic would suggest. The crowd cries out, "Not this man, but Barabbas." And the text adds a powerful detail. Barabbas was a rebel. This moment reveals something important about human decision-making. Sometimes, truth is not rejected because it is false. It is rejected because it is not what is expected, because it does not match emotional desire, because it does not align with immediate pressure. Pilate, still trying to navigate the situation, asks again, "What shall I do then with Jesus who is called the Messiah?" The response is repeated louder, "Crucify him." The shift is dramatic, from lack of evidence to demand for execution, from recognition of innocence to demand for punishment. This is not a legal process anymore. This is a pressure-driven outcome. Pilate is caught in the middle. He knows the truth, but he also knows the pressure, and this tension becomes the defining struggle of the moment. The question is no longer about Jesus alone. It becomes about Pilate. What will he do with truth when it does not align with expectation? This is where the deeper meaning emerges. Because this scene is not just historical, it reflects a pattern that exists beyond that moment. Truth often stands in environments where it is questioned, measured, or redirected. And the response to truth is often shaped by external influence rather than internal conviction. Pilate's struggle is not intellectual, it is positional. He is caught between what he sees as true and what he feels pressured to decide. And in that space, clarity becomes difficult to maintain. But Jesus remains unchanged. He does not adjust his identity based on the courtroom. He does not shift his message based on pressure. He does not defend himself in the way the system expects. He simply stands as truth. This is what makes the moment so powerful. Because truth does not depend on acceptance to exist. It does not require agreement to remain valid. It simply is. And yet human systems often struggle with that reality. They prefer control over uncertainty, outcome over clarity, pressure over patience. As the scene continues beyond this passage, the decision moves forward toward crucifixion. But within this moment, something deeper has already been revealed. Truth has been recognized, but not fully received. And that gap becomes the defining tension. Pilate represents a space many people find themselves in, seeing truth, acknowledging it in some form, but hesitating to act on it when pressure increases. And that hesitation shapes outcomes. Not because truth is unclear, but because clarity requires courage, and courage requires alignment. This moment also reveals something about leadership and responsibility. Pilate has authority, but authority without conviction becomes unstable under pressure. He is able to declare innocence, but not able to fully act on it. This creates internal conflict and external consequence. Meanwhile, the crowd represents collective influence. When individual clarity is weak, collective pressure becomes strong, and in that environment, truth can be overshadowed by volume rather than substance. But Jesus remains at the center of it all, not as a passive figure, but as the focal point of truth itself. He does not resist in the way the system expects. He does not conform to the system's demand. He simply remains aligned with his purpose, to testify to truth, and that testimony continues even in silence, even in misunderstanding, even in rejection. As we reflect on this moment, we see a contrast between three perspectives. Pilate, who sees truth but struggles to act on it. The crowd, who chooses outcome over truth. And Jesus, who embodies truth, regardless of response. And within that contrast lies a question for every generation. What do we do when truth stands before us? Do we analyze it and step away? Do we follow external pressure? Or do we stand with clarity, even when it is difficult? Because truth does not always arrive in comfortable moments. Sometimes it arrives in tension, in uncertainty, in decisions that require courage. And how we respond in those moments shapes far more than we realize. The trial before Pilate is not just about judgment, it is about recognition. And in that recognition, responsibility. Because truth, once seen, calls for response, not neutrality, not avoidance, but engagement. And that is where the deeper challenge lies. So as this moment concludes, we are left not just with a historical scene, but with a reflection. Truth stood before authority, and authority struggled to respond. And that struggle continues in many forms today, in decisions, in choices, in moments of pressure, and in the quiet question that still echoes, what is truth, and what will we do when we recognize it? Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who might need this today.